At some point, did both James and Jennifer Crumbley come to your office?
Yeah, so I ended up being on the phone with Mom for that 5 to 6 minutes. She stated she was going to try and get Dad to come to the office, and she was unable to. And so during that point, we had about 20 minutes where I was sort of just waiting. During that time, I showed the student the list of resources I was going to give to his parents.
Tell me about that, please.
It was about a 3-page list of just different mental health services in the area. On it, it gave contact information for them. It gave specialization areas for them. And it gave oftentimes insurance, if it was accepted, if they worked without insurance, anything that they would work with, payment plans.
Okay.
So I wanted him to see what I would be providing his parents.
Was the defendant's son with you from the point that you brought him out of class to the point that James and Jennifer Crumbley arrived at school?
Yes.
Okay. And approximately how long was that?
It was approximately an hour and a half. So around, I want to say a little before 10, probably like 9:45, 9:50, I received another call from Mom stating that she was unable to get a hold of Dad and that she would be coming in.
Okay. Now, if I told you that we saw surveillance video that indicated you welcomed them, both James and Jennifer, in your office at 10:40 a.m., does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. Now, what was your expectations of what was to happen at the end of that meeting?
My hope was that they were going to take him and either take him to get help or even just to take him to let's have a good day. Let's have a day where we just spend time with you, where we are with you.
To take him out of school?
Yeah.
Did you believe that he could be left alone at that point?
I didn't want him left alone. I didn't want to make that decision that he was okay to be left alone. So that's why I stayed with him for as long as I did, until I had parents there.
Did you express to the student or his parents that you identified suicidal ideation?
Yes, I said that the student, when I asked the student if he had a plan, if he was a threat to himself or others, the student said, his words were something to the effect of, I can see why this looks bad, I'm not going to do anything. So I had all this information, but the student was saying he wasn't going to be doing anything. So when the parents came in, I went over all of the things I had seen over my time with the student. That he expressed the sadness over a dog passing. He expressed that COVID has been hard, that a family member passed, that a friend left. He expressed an argument the night before with parents.
Did he tell you details about the argument?
No.
Did he tell you that he received the gun a few days ago?
No.
Tell us about the meeting when James and Jennifer arrived.
It was initially odd to me that they were both there because I wasn't expecting that. But not to the point where I asked anything about it, just it was unexpected. Both parents followed me back to my office. The student, that was the one time he was in there by himself, was when I went out to greet the parents and brought them back. The student and his dad sat across from me, and Mom sat in a chair kind of diagonal from me. And Mr. Ejak had left once we had confirmed parents were coming, and he returned for that portion of the meeting. So really, I felt like parents were confirming what I had said without giving additional information.
Hang on, let me ask you about that. You say confirming without giving additional information. I want to make sure I understand what you mean by that. So first of all, you've had these kind of meetings with parents in the past?
I have.
Okay. When you say confirming, is that something that would typically happen in these meetings?
It could. but oftentimes you may gain additional information. As you know, as a school employee, I had 90 minutes.
Okay.
He's 15 years old.
So did James or Jennifer give you any additional information?
No.
So tell me what you did and what was said.
So to start off the meeting, I asked Mom if she had received the phone call from the previous day and that those events were true. She said yes. I talked about how the student had expressed these different areas of sadness, that his dog had passed, yes. Family member had passed, yep. Friends left. And all of those were just confirmed.
Were there any details about the circumstances of the friend leaving and the impact on their son?
I didn't know any details about it. No.
They didn't share any with you?
No.
I'm sorry. I interrupted again. Go ahead.
It's okay. So a lot of it was, I felt like I was bringing information and they knew it, but I wasn't gaining information. So at that point, I know I handed Mom the list of resources and said I'd like him to get support outside of here. I'd like him to get help and have somebody that he can talk to. And Mom made mention that they would, but they couldn't right away. So I told Mom that I wanted him to get help as soon as possible, today if possible, and was told that wasn't possible.
Okay. Told by James, Jennifer, or both?
By Jennifer.
Okay.
James at that time, to my memory, was talking with his son.
Do you recall what he said?
I remember it, yes. He was looking at the math assignment with his son.
When you say math assignment, are we talking about
It's
this
the
one?
hard copy.
So we're referring to this, Exhibit 128?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was talking to his son and mentioned that, you have people you can talk to. You can talk to your counselor, you have your journal, we talk. And it felt appropriate at that time, but...
At that point, did he share any details about anything you had discussed?
I don't recall any additional details, no. But my concern at that point was that there wasn't any action happening.
When his wife said that they can't, did he protest that?
No.
So you said you had a concern that no action was happening, so what did you decide to do?
Well, I told them that with getting help, I said I wanted to see movement on within 48 hours, and then I'd be following up.
So if the shooting didn't occur, what was your plan?
I was going to meet with the student the next morning and see if they had had conversations about it, if they had made some plans to move towards some sort of therapy.
And if that didn't occur, what were you going to do?
I was going to call Child Protective Services.
Now, generally speaking, within Oxford High School, is it preferred to send the student home when an issue arises, or keep the student at school?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean with that.
So you didn't call the police?
As a counselor, I can't send a student home anyway.
But you didn't want him to be alone?
I didn't want him to be alone. So in this context, my thought was when parents were saying they had to return to work, I wanted to make sure the student was with people. Because my concern was him, was his well-being and his ability to be safe and cared for.
Did James Crumbley elaborate at all on the fight they had the night before?
No.
Now, how long did tell us how the meeting ended.
Jennifer asked if they were done, which felt abrupt. And during that time, the student had also expressed interest. He wanted to go back to class. I asked Mr. Ejak if there was any, from a discipline standpoint, is there anything you need to do? Is there any reason he can't go to class? And I was told no. So I wrote him a pass to return to his end of his third hour.
Okay. When Jennifer asked, are we done here, did James protest at all?
No.
So tell us what happened as you wrote the student the pass.
I told the student that I cared about him and wanted him to know that I just wanted him to know that.
Did either James or Jennifer say that to him?
No.
Mr. Hopkins, do you have any knowledge of firearms?
Very limited.
Would you know what this firearm depicts? What kind of firearm?
A handgun.
Is that the extent of your knowledge?
Yeah.
What about this bullet here?
A bullet.
Just a bullet? And neither James nor Jennifer said anything about the firearm or the bullet?
No.
Now, you indicated that you passed on a 3-page list of resources for mental health providers.
I did.
I'm going to show you a screenshot of 137 here. In James's hand, does this appear to be that list of resources?
Objection. I would say that calls for speculation. I don't think Mr. Hopkins knows what's in Mr. Crumbley's hand.
Do you know what's in his hand?
I know that it's multiple pages of paper, and I handed him a stapled 3-page piece of paper.
Okay. Did you see anything in Jennifer Crumbley's hands?
I do not. Well, a phone. And something in her right hand, but I'm not sure. Maybe. I see a phone.
Now, in your years as a high school counselor, how many times have you had to call a parent in and tell either mom or dad or guardian that you identified suicidal ideation in their child?
15 to 20, over a dozen.
Okay. Any of those meetings, did a parent fail to take their child home?
I can't think of any, no.
Now, you indicated this was a confirming responses from James and Jennifer Crumbley. In those other meetings, were parents sharing information?
Oftentimes, yes. Oftentimes parents would come in and want to paint a more complete picture of their student, of their situation. Oftentimes, all the time, I feel parents know their kids better than I do. If all I ever did was meet with students, I might have 2 hours a year with each student.
Do you rely upon the parent for that information?
Absolutely.